Let me start off here, Joe, by saying the complete obvious. Okay. USC is going to be really good offensively. I don't care about what they got in the portal and the offensive line, their receivers, their running backs. They got arguably one of, if not the best quarterback room in the country. Okay. Mm-hmm. I already know what I'm getting from Lincoln Riley. I don't even feel like personally I need to even break any of that down because I know what's coming. Okay. They're going to be really good offensively. Maybe do they need to get a little better in their running game at times? Do they need to get a little bit better in protection? Yes. Like we can talk about it. You have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get. There's only one thing that I did a deep dive on. I did nothing really offensively. I know that they're going to run the RPO where the backside guard and the backside tackle are going to pull to make the defensive lineman make a decision. Either they're going to give it because they're going to stay, they're going to pull it and throw the slant. Look, I have done more film study on Lincoln Riley's offense, Joe. I could tell you the plays that he's calling. Ask any of my offensive line buddies that come watch games with us. I legitimately can call what he's going to do. I love him, and I love Lincoln Riley's offensive philosophy from an O-line standpoint. I think it's an offensive lineman's dream. Offensive linemen want to get out in space. They want to pull. They want to get their face mask in the chest of a little 185-pound DB. Okay? They do. They love it. Alex Grinch deserves to be fired. Okay?
He should have been.
He should have been. Let's call it what it is. He should have been fired. But I told you 3 months ago that I had a card in my back pocket for USC. And why I think that, and I didn't use that verbiage. I just said I wanted to see something. I wanted to see what they want to do in the portal. I went back and watched their show this morning at 6 a.m. This is my exact words. Are you ready? Alex Grinch is going to have to get better up front defensively if they want to sniff winning the Pac-12. You know what he did in the portal?
Got Barry Alexander and he got Anthony Lucas.
And not only that, he got Mason Cobb, the linebacker, and he went and got Jack Sullivan from Purdue. Okay? He accomplished that. I still don't think it's going to be enough.
Blake, here's my thing. That's exactly right. Offensively, this team is going to be one of the best in the country. We knew who Caleb Williams is. They retooled, they refueled on at receiver. Dorian Singer is going to be a great replacement for Jordan Addison. They're not going to miss a freaking step. And the offensive line was a liability last year, and they went and added Emmanuel Pregnon, who is a fantastic interior offensive lineman.
Right.
That offense is going to put up stupid historic numbers, barring that there is no injury to Caleb Williams, which we saw when he's hurt.
Which, if not we're going to be honest, if we're in that league, they have a 5-star quarterback that could come in and win games depending on which year part of the season that Caleb Williams would go down.
Yes, Malachi Nelson.
Malachi Nelson can win them 5 games.
Depends who they're playing. I don't think that he can't beat Washington or
Oregon, Washington or Utah, and he started those 5 games. They're winning them all. If he goes against Colorado, they're smacking that ass.
Okay, don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
I am impressed with the additions along the defensive line, though. That is going to be very significant for them to win their Pac-12 games, to beat Notre Dame, to beat Washington, to beat Oregon. Those are the 3 circled games on the schedule for me. But their biggest liability in 2022, Blake, was at defensive back. And a lot of people, if you look at the statistics, it doesn't suggest that they had a bad secondary. But if you watch the film, their secondary stunk. And we're going to get so many stupid comments in here on the clip of this video that we're going to post on the YouTube channel. Well, they averaged X, Y, and Z amount that they gave. I look at the results of what happened in these games. They got a lot of turnovers in early games against bad quarterbacks, but their secondary was horrible last year. They lost Mekhi Blackman, who was one of their better players. They did add Christian Roland Wallace from Arizona, but I don't see how much better they got. That to me is going to still be the biggest liability, and there is no difference in the quality. What has always been the biggest crutch for Lincoln Riley in his time at Oklahoma? It's been the secondary. He's actually done a fine job of recruiting the defensive line. Their secondary has been very, very problematic in his entire time as a head coach. And Alex Grinch clearly can't freaking coach it either. I have legitimate concerns that they can't play defense in the back end. How are you going to stop Michael Penix and Rome Odunze from beating you deep? How are you going to stop Bo Nix from picking you apart? It is going to require a massive, massive effort from Anthony Lucas and Bear Alexander.
Well, so look, I look at, okay, like Michael Pratt from Tulane, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have an electric game. He went 8 of 17.
And who are his receivers?
That's my point, okay? But the thing is, this is what I did look at. All right? In that game against Tulane, Joe, Michael Pratt had 8 completions. He went 8 for 17, below 50%. He had 8 completions that went for 234 yards. Okay? Now do the math on that. 8 completions, 234 yards.
That is bad tackling, terrible
terrible
coverage.
But thank you. Okay, that's what I have written down. How does that happen? That means that defensively, you're lost. You can't tackle. You can't cover. They did, though, have some games where they did do some things defensively. Like DTR last year, they picked him off 3 times, but he still threw for 309 yards.
But like that's my whole point, is that the guys that they had this production are like, DTR's fine. He's not the best decision maker.
But
Sorry.
Cam Rising lit them up.
Twice.
Dalton
Kincaid dominated them.
Here's the flip side of that coin, though. I have all 3 of these games pulled up, okay? DTR threw for 309. Joe, guess how many times he got sacked? Once. Michael Pratt arguably had the most difficult game against them, but still had 8 completions for 234 yards. He got sacked 4 times. Cam Rising lit them up, got sacked once. You know what's going to help their coverage? The immense pressure that Bear Alexander and Anthony Lucas could get on other quarterbacks. The biggest problem for me, Joe, was not always their secondary, because when you run zone coverage, eventually the zone is going to break down, okay? That's what a zone coverage is built on. Early success, late denial, okay, is the verbiage that they use. They got to get more pressure on the quarterback. They were horrific at getting pressure after the quarterback. The biggest games that they play, Joe, they averaged 1 sack. 1.
I don't disagree with that.
Well, there's no disagreeing, Joe. There's no disagreement. You know why there can't be a disagreement? Because statistically, we have the back end of, Joe, they only had a sack. They were only getting a sack.
Yes. That is, again, extremely important. And we saw, what did the best team in college football do last year better than anybody else?
They got after the quarterback.
They ate people up with their defensive line and the rotations that they had. So you can't disagree with that statement. That is what is now the most important thing in college football, is what you do up front, especially on the defensive line. But again, this is why I'm referencing the film. Like, if you go back and watch those games, it's bad. The coverage wasn't horrific, but the tackling by their defensive backs was horrible.
Well,
terrible.
But if you go back and look, so I went and watched the first Utah USC game, okay? The one that Rising threw 415 yards against them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe, Cam Rising doesn't even get hit in the first matchup. In 2 games and over 70 passing attempts and 700 yards, Joe, he only got sacked once. I agree that their tackling is horrific. I can't defend that. Right? Like I cannot come on here and defend any of that. The problem, though, I don't think is all in their secondary. I think that the main problem is what they did up front. And it's why always Alex Grinch and USC and Lincoln Riley's defenses have been so bad because they've been so bad up front.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is Joe, I can't emphasize how bad that they were the last year up front. They were getting clapped. Like again, I look at Utah. They only ran for 142 yards the first time, okay? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's not too terribly bad, right? But then I looked the second time, and the second time, they gave up 237 yards on the ground. The Jaquindon kid had 107 yards. Bernard had 88. Rison had 27. And Caleb Williams, quite honestly, had 90 yards rushing on that one big play he had, but he's running for his outright life. Both sides of the offense and defensive line, Joe, were horrific.
And it got better. It got better. And this is where I see that it translates, though, Blake.
Nathan, Ty Floyd.
I saw that. I saw the baseball comment.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more Ty Floyd.
Where this projects, though, their boost on the offense and defensive line is going to set them up to be more successful in the Pac-12 championship.
No doubt.
And I think that they have a stronger likelihood, and it would be reckless to not predict them to win the Pac-12 championship game. I don't say that they go undefeated. I think that there is a likelihood that they lose a game or they get bullied and somebody runs the ball down their throat. But this needs to be emphasized right now. This team is not good enough to win a playoff game. It's not.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Because if this is a one-loss team and they win the Pac-12, they're going to be the 4 seed. Any other team is going to be ranked ahead of them.
I don't agree with that.
You think that they can go as high as 3?
I think they could go as high as 2.
Oh, I wouldn't put them ahead of a Big Ten team with 1 loss. I absolutely would not do that.
Well, but what if they went undefeated?
Then the conversation gets a little bit different. But wherever they are, there's a really good chance that they play an SEC team. You telling me if they play LSU, Alabama,
they would put them at 2? You want me to tell you why they put them at 2?
Why?
Because college football. Well, here's the thing: USC is not a Pac-12 school anymore.
It's going to be a Big Ten.
So it doesn't matter.
But their schedule the past year is going to be a Pac-12 schedule.
It doesn't matter.
What I'm getting at here is that if
it don't, Joe, it don't matter. It don't matter, bro.
Okay,
you know what I did. It don't matter. Come on now.
Okay, all right. Good point. I don't see any shot. And again, the USC fans, you guys are going to get upset. Go ahead, feel free to get upset because you guys hate me anyways. I don't like you either. I'm going to continue to say that. Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Michigan. If they play any of those 4 teams, they would get waxed. They will get bullied on up front. They're improved on the offensive and defensive line. They do not have the bodies to go against those dudes. They absolutely do not.
They don't have, well, I'm going to counteract that. They do have the bodies if they're fully healthy. They do. They don't have the depth. They don't have the depth of any.
They don't have the SEC depth or the Big Ten.
They don't have. They don't have Florida State's depth. They don't have Ohio State's depth. They don't have Michigan's depth.
I didn't even mention Florida State. I completely forgot about Florida State.
Yeah, like they don't have Florida State's depth. I'm going to be real with you and listen. Listen. Okay. Don't obliterate this when you hear it. Okay.
Uh oh.
I had an SEC coach tell me that all right, I got to be careful. Clemson, they ain't got Clemson's.
Yeah.
Hey, bro. Hey.
But the only thing is Clemson doesn't have the offense to keep up with.
Okay. That's why I wanted to be careful and I didn't want you to obliterate it. Okay, because we're talking.
I'm not going to.
Okay. You know who else they I don't think that they have A&M's depth. I don't think that they have Alabama's depth.
No.
Look. So full circle. Can I tell you something that you won't agree with?
I never agree with you. So go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to get obliterated for this take. I think that USC, if went to play at Texas A&M today, up front, USC gets destroyed.
That statement I don't disagree with, but USC wins that.
I'm not saying that A&M wins. Okay, don't misunderstand that. Okay,
they probably. So here's how I think a game like that would. This is all very hypothetical because it's not going to happen, but it would play out. I feel like Notre Dame USC last year, where Notre Dame had the defensive front to create penetration.
Correct.
Caleb Williams is such a freaking good athlete that he went back and forth, and then he found Jordan Addison on his third cutback, and then he connected with him, and then they picked up a 50-40 yard game.
A&M's not winning the game. Let's not get crazy here.
That's where all this gets complicated, though. Is Caleb Williams' improvisational ability is that you could have penetration that isn't accounted for in the stat book because the dude can just evade everything.
Correct. But again, when you turn on that all 22 copy, though. Mm-hmm. You're going to be like, okay, A&M just destroyed it. Like, Joe, A&M lost to Appalachian State last year, right? Remember?
Yeah.
I watched that all 22 copy a couple weeks ago, okay? Dude, the offensive line for Appalachian State got murdered, okay? Like, physically outright murdered.
Yeah.
It was that they had – I mean, you want to know what a quarterback – a really good transcendent quarterback does for your team? Look at A&M. Look at A&M.
Exactly.
Okay? So I look at that and I'm like, oh, dude, USC, they would just get bullied up front. But I do like if Lucas could stay healthy, if Bear Alexander can stay healthy, if the kid from Purdue, or I think it's Sullivan, can stay healthy, they can be decent. And I think that they're going to be okay. But I'm with you, dude. They're not going to win a playoff game.
No.
They're not going to win a playoff game.
That's the most again, I don't like USC. I don't like USC fans, but me conceding that takes a lot to admit that they can reach the playoff. That's what I'll leave it at before we talk about Kelly.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you something, and this might going to be my last thought on this. Mm-hmm. I think Oregon is a better coached overall team.
Much more. It's going to be much more disciplined. They will be a much more.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it. That probably is the correct verbiage I should have used.
Yeah.
Much more disciplined. Wow. Holy crud. Wow. So a coach just texted me. Okay, SEC coach just texted me. There's a well, you know him. He shows you some love too. He just texted me. So 2025 running back in Louisiana, Harlem Berry.
Yeah.
He is at the Under Armour All-American game, like the next level, like skill combat, whatever, like skill. He just ran a 4.28 electronic time from high school.
See, those times scare me, and I don't know how legit they are, but that's still freaking bonkers.
So even if it's a hand time,
that's still nuts.
Well, he's still running a 4.38.
Yes.
Like, Joe, think about this. One Mississippi. That's the difference.
Yes. Yes. 4.28. It's a 2025 kid?
2025. So listen, I saw Harlem Berry last year catch a ball. I think it was a punt or kick return. Not only did he reverse fields once, he reversed fields twice. He went boom, boom, boom. And a kid that won the 100-meter dash in Louisiana tried to run him down and got burned.
You think he's going to LSU? Or is he committed?
He's not committed, but listen, we're talking about raising canes earlier.
Right, but also a running back in state. Is it Frank Wilson's
Frank
the
Wilson.
running back?
But he's not a traditional running back, though. Like, he's not a He's not a run in between the tackles type of back.
He's a speed back, scat back. I would assume based on what you're
Yeah,
describing.
if you get him out in space, he's what he can. I honestly think he can be. I think he can be Jahmyr Gibbs.
I was just about to say him or Etienne is usually the two that I go to.
Etienne's more physical.
Well, Travis Etienne, not Trevor. Travis, the Clemson.
Well, Travis is more. Travis is physical now.
Yeah, he could run between the tackles a little bit.
Yeah, true. All right, so listen, you want to get to this Brian Kelly thing real quick?
Yeah, let's see how concise we can be.
All right, go ahead. What's your what?
Well,
so
no, Lee, go ahead and go ahead and lead it in, and all I'm saying.
I don't even know what he said. I don't. So you said I don't even remember what he said because he said so much. What part bothers you?
No, it's not that the part of it bothers me. I just I feel like you and I always get down whenever we talk about regulation. We always kind of just start yelling at each other without listening to each other. So that's what I mean by concise is that we're not going to
go ahead. I'm not going to.
The statement all he made was, and it's in line with stuff that I had said, is that there needs to be regulation. He said college athletics is at a crossroads if this doesn't get fixed. Where's Title IX in all of this? Where's Division II sports? Where's Division III sports? If every state is tailoring bills to their own self-interest rather than the health of college athletics as a whole, that's not going to work. We need to do something. There needed to be something publicly behind it. This is going to be the same for everyone. I think it better be than right.
I've never disagreed. Hold on.
Yeah.
I have never disagreed for there needing to be regulations on it. I've never disagreed with that. My argument has been,
okay.
What do you regulate?
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. And
it's not, Joe, I am not for, I swear to God, I am not for saying that there shouldn't be regulations. My point is how do you regulate capitalism? That was the part that I'm trying to make, right? Like, I get what he's saying, but just because he says we need regulations doesn't make Brian Kelly right.
Yeah, and it's kind of a vague statement that he's making. I mostly wanted to bring it up because it was a coach talking about it, and it's your head coach who's talking.
Oh, well, go ahead. What do you think about what he's saying?
I think that he's absolutely right, and I think that we need, as I've said multiple times on this program, we need national legislation that puts regulations in place that protects the businesses, that protects the athletes, and then also
that is where me and you disagree. That is where you.
Right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Continue. I'm not saying another word. Look, I'm putting myself on mute. Uh-oh, Joe. I think we just lost Joe. Oh, no. Joe. Roger Dugas says, I agree with Joe on that one. What happened? Oh, his power just went out. Oh, no. All right. Well, we'll see you guys tonight. Subscribe to AYS on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you tonight. Peace.